Electric vehicles, a topic we love talking about on this channel. But when I say electric vehicles, it's not just electric cars, it's not just fast Teslas. A big area of application for electric mobility is buses. It's public transport, maybe electric planes. Wow, electric planes, that's a video for another day. You see, electric cars, cool as they may be, they're not driven a lot. A typical car spends most of its time parked at home, parked at work. Maybe you drive it 20 kilometers to and from work, another 5 kilometers to the shops and back. That's pretty much it. But a public transport bus, 15 to 16 hours a day, multiple trips around the city. Now you take that and make it electric. Well, now we're talking. Okay, so let's do it. Let's take the example of a public transport electric bus. Big bus needs a big battery, let's say 300 kilowatt hour capacity. If you consider ideal driving conditions for the bus, so that's temperature of 20 to 25 degrees centigrade, free flowing or minimal traffic, AC and heating probably not required. If you consider these conditions for the bus to operate in, let's say it expends 1 kilowatt hour capacity per kilometer driven, which means if you charge this bus to its entire 300 kilowatt hour capacity, that is 100% charge, then for the bus to do its entire public transport work for the day, it's got 300 kilometers of range before it runs out of charge. Now you could say, okay, so the bus has 300 kilometers of range on a full charge. It goes around the city 15-16 hours a day and maybe goes around for 250, 260, 270 kilometers. So everything's good, right? What's your problem? Well, okay, first of all, a 300 kilowatt hour battery, well, that's a big boy. For perspective, a Tesla 60 kilowatt hour battery on a Tesla car costs about $10,000 US. So imagine for a 300 kilowatt hour battery, well, that's gonna cost a lot. Especially you got to get that size of a battery for all the buses in your fleet, right? Think about the cost, think about the weight, and think about the space. Here's where the ABB TOSA flash charging solution comes in. Instead of putting a 300 kilowatt hour big boy battery into the bus, how about we put a 50 kilowatt hour battery in the bus? A lot cheaper, a lot lighter, and a lot smaller, correct? Yeah, correct, but the range has now been cut down from 300 kilometers for the day to 50 kilometers for the day. That's not enough. Yes, correct, it's not enough. But okay, so listen, the solution is we're not going to charge it in the morning and give it range and that's it. What we're going to do is the solution is that we're going to charge it in 3 stages. Stage 1 is just normal charging at the bus depot as usual before the day shift starts for the bus. Normal slow charging at about 40-50 kilowatts, not placing too much demand or any demand on the grid, and just slow charging. By the time the driver is ready to start the bus to get the day started, 50 kilowatt hour battery is fully charged and you have 50 kilometers of range. Now that the bus has started its day with 50 kilometers of range with the 50 kilowatt hour battery fully charged, now is where the excitement comes in, because stage 2 is the flash charging. At say every 5th stop along the bus route, there's one of these charging stations. The bus comes and stops, the robot arm comes up and connects to charge within 1 second, and for the next 20 seconds when people are getting on and off the bus is flash charged for 20 seconds with 600 kilowatts. This flash charging adds 3 kilowatt hour of battery charge, which translates into 3 kilometers of range added in 20 seconds, which I think is pretty good. Think of it as a top up. So every 5th bus stop that the bus comes to, you're topping up the battery charge, the range by 3 kilometers. Now a problem here is if you're flash charging 600 kilowatts in only 20 seconds and you're expecting that from the electric grid, that places a lot of demand on the electric grid, which is not good at all. 600 kilowatts in 20 seconds. So the solution to that with this ABB flash charging TOSA technology is that the chargers that you see at the bus stops is a buffer charger. So the buffer charger has storage as well, and that is connected to the electric grid. And this buffer charger will take slowly and regulated aram se from the grid and store it here, so that when the bus needs that 600 kilowatts flash charging in 20 seconds, it can do that without disturbing and putting demand on the grid. And you see it is bidirectional as well, so If this buffer charger is not being used and it's peak hours and the grid needs it, it can give it back as well. And finally, stage 3 is coffee break, toilet break charging. This is pretty much similar to the flash charging that's done for 20 seconds at the bus stops, but if it's a coffee break or a toilet break or whatever, the bus is stopped for 5 to 10 minutes, then we have a little more time. We're still going to charge it at a pretty high rate, maybe 300 to 400 kilowatts, but we'll do it for 5 to 10 minutes so that by the time in 10 minutes when everyone's back on after the toilet breaks or whatever and the driver's ready to go again, the bus will have been charged for 25 kilowatt hour, which is about 50% of the full battery capacity, and it's added 25 kilometers of range. And again, this is still taking 300-400 kilowatts in 5 to 10 minutes, which is still a bit of demand for the grid, not good for it. But as discussed earlier, we have the flash charging buffer charger technology. So alles gut. And that is the electric bus 3-stage flash charging solution. Instead of having a massive, expensive 300 kilowatt hour battery, have a 50 kilowatt hour battery, way smaller, but then keep topping it up by flash charging it for 20 seconds at every 5th bus stop and for 5 to 10 minutes at every coffee stop, and just make the charge and the range last throughout the bus shift day. Now finally, let's talk about the pros and the cons of doing this. The pros, the main thing obviously is you don't need a 300 kilowatt hour battery. You can now make do with a 50 kilowatt hour battery, and across the fleet of buses, that's a hell of a lot of savings. Not to mention, the buses are now lighter because of the lighter batteries, which means it goes further, more performance, and also the batteries are smaller, which means there's a lot more space. Maybe you can put more seats. Another thing is, without this flash charging solution, if a bus is about to run out of charge, it's got no option. It's got to tell its passengers to get out, run back to the depot and start charging, and effectively take itself out of circulation, right? But with this solution, it can keep going with the passengers on board, just keep topping up, continue, and the bus stays in action and stays in circulation, which is a big thing for the bus companies. The cons, obviously, infrastructure, you need a lot of it. You know, these buffer stations, charging stations at every 5th bus stop, these robot arm connections, the coffee break chargers, everything needs to be set up. Everything needs to be functional all the time. You can't have a bus that's almost running out of charge, somehow desperately makes it to a flash charging station, and that buffer charger is broken, or the robot arm won't connect, or there's a lot of variables, and all of these have to work together all the time. This time last year, Ashok Leyland Buses signed an MOU with ABB to bring this TOSA flash charging technology to India. Now, I don't know the current status of this project and how it's going. Maybe you guys do. Let me know down in the comments below. I genuinely hope that it does work out, but I have my concerns regarding these variables of infrastructure for India, because say a bus comes to the flash charging station and you can't have, oh sir, since yesterday there's no power here, some KB guys are coming, we'll see it. Can't happen. For the flash charging station, the bus has to stop at a particular place, for the robot arm. And Indian bus stands, there's so many people at the bus stand, multiple buses, so things like this, simple enough in Switzerland where it was tested, but they quickly get complex in an Indian environment. I've told you about how the tech works, spoken about the pros and the cons of it. So now you let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Give it a like, give it a subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you next time. Bye.